Welcome back. We're live, pal. Andrew Zarian and myself, Garrett Gonzalez here. First, Andrew, how is the hip feeling?
1 to 10, I would say it's like a 4.5 right now. 10
So
being amazing.
that's not pain. That's how it's feeling overall.
How it's
You're not at a
pain
4.5
wise.
on pain.
No, I'm like at a 7 right now for pain.
Ooh, that's
Yeah,
pretty high,
it's
man.
not great. Yeah, I could tolerate it a little bit.
Are you taking, Advil or something to try and help
No,
you get through
nothing.
it?
They
Just going
offer
straight.
me everything. I don't want to take anything. I take like an Advil every now and then, but like I
Yeah.
kind of want to know what's going on here.
Mm-hmm. And physical therapy? Is there anything going on there?
3 days a week. I
Woo!
mean, my mobility is back, like
Yeah.
tremendously. I don't think people realize I couldn't do this. I had no rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you were to like lay down on your back and then you put your legs in, I had no rotation like this at all. I couldn't. If I tried the hardest, I couldn't even lift the leg. And then now I have full, as close to full more mobility after fracturing a hip.
Yeah.
Not like a terrible fracture, but like still, it's still a fracture. It's brutal, but it's getting there. I mean, they said it's going to take fully like 3 to 4 months to get back to how I was, but little by little, man.
All right. If you were a professional wrestler, would you be able to wrestle in the ring this Wednesday? Would you be able to tough it
Uh,
out?
you know what? If I was in the main event for the title, I would I would definitely be able to tough it out. No, I wouldn't. No, I probably couldn't right now. I probably couldn't take a bump.
You'd have to throw the super kick with the other leg.
Well, my right leg, which is my less dominant leg, I'm a lefty, so it'll be an interesting kick to throw.
All
By the way,
right, let's talk about.
I do want to tell you a little fun fact about me. I'm a third degree black belt, guys, and this is not stealing Bruce Pritchard's gimmick.
Yeah,
Legitimately,
yeah.
I haven't thrown a kick in 20 years, but
So okay, so the black belt test that you had to take, was it like back in the day, like when I was a kid, where there were so few black belts that it was like the hardest thing to do? Or is it like today where you kind of pay to go through the program and eventually you get the prize?
no, the place. Well, yeah, kind of, sort of, right? Like the black belt, like all the other belts were like nonsense, but like the black
Yeah.
belt test was the big one. I like to think I went to like a really good, legitimate school until you talk to people that went to an actual like real like
Yeah.
International Taekwondo Federation Academy, and then you're like, oh yeah, this is bullshit,
Yeah. It was early in my my Taekwondo career that I realized I am more lover than fighter. I don't know, I was probably like 8 or 9 years old, and I was training, and you'll enjoy this. So Ernie Reyes Sr., I was training with his cousin. So Ernie Reyes Jr., when he was much younger, because he's several years older than me, but he
The
would
actor,
come in and
right?
do.
Ernie Reyes Jr.
Yes, and he would come in and do demonstrations. People will remember him from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and
Yeah.
he was in the one movie with The Rock. I forget the something down the what I don't remember the name, but he was in that movie. But anyways, he was like a genius at like 12 or 13 years old, just coming in and doing these insane demonstrations. But I was fine doing, I think, what people would call katas right now. We called them polygis. And then like
You did
I had
Taekwondo?
all that stuff. I had all that stuff. Once we had to spar, I was out. I was like, oh, so
You like the kata, not the hitting.
exactly. So it was like, oh, so you can actually kick me in the face? Like, what is going on here? And yeah, and then I was done. I was like, nope, this is not for me. I'm gonna
I
learn
went
how
the
to.
opposite. I
Yeah.
had no ability to do the katas. I was terrible, but I loved to fight, and I used to compete. My father did Taekwondo years ago, so like it was like he was living vicariously through me. I did all the tournaments, Empire State Tournament, Twin Towers class. I did all the All-American, like all 15 of them. I did all the tournaments till I was like 17, and then I got too cool for kicking people, and I'd rather go and hang out and be a bad boy. You
So,
know?
but okay, so I'm picturing you in your tournaments, and I'm picturing your dad just coming in shirtless, like just flexing and intimidating the
He
other fighters.
I got a great story. I did I either it was a Twin Tower Classic or the Empire State Tournament at the Garden. Okay? At the Garden. Now,
Wow.
it was the theater at the Garden, but it was
Yeah,
still the
yeah.
Garden. And my father got so mad because this guy was cheating and the referee was like associated to him. He took the trophies and he threw it in like the little,
What?
like, I guess like the ring. He took the trophies and threw it in the ring and cracked them all and said, "We're out of here." And he did this whole thing. It was unbelievable. So
Wow.
that's Fred. That's a good Fred story, you know?
Wow. Amazing. All right, we might as well talk some wrestling because we had a pretty big story last week. I don't know if you've read your Wrestling Observer newsletter, you know what we're talking about here with the CM Punk promo calling out Adam Page, and Adam Page did not know it was coming, and John Moxley and CM Punk going back and forth to create a title match before All Out. When you're watching this and you're watching live, I was watching your tweets. What was your sense of what was going on here in the ring with Punk and Moxley, and then Page kind of getting thrown into this?
I have a ton of opinions. I've been dying to talk to you about this. I really have all week. Seriously, I was looking forward to having this conversation with you because yeah, you have this unbelievable insight for pro wrestling. So I love to throw these concepts and ideas to you, and you tell me if it's whack or not. Right? By the
Mm-hmm.
way, this is our new roller derby conversation. Please let Dave know. We don't do roller jam or roller derby. We talk about taekwondo in the 80s.
Exactly.
That's our roller
Exactly.
derby now. Uh, I watching it live, I thought, he came out and, he's like, I have two things, one important, one not so important. When he went after Hangman, like this is me, and I think I'm pretty good with picking stuff up. It was a really clunky promo, right? A clunky shoot. And at that moment, it got me thinking. I'm like, oh, is this, listen, at the end of the day, we cover wrestling, but like we could get worked. I'm fine
Yeah.
with that. I have
No,
no problem
100%.
being wrong on this because that means they did their job to phenomenally. When I saw it, I initially thought, well, okay, that's weird. That's wonky. I wonder if he's coming out. Like I didn't see it as a shoot. And when he didn't come out and he called him a coward and he said something about the apology has to be as loud as whatever. I forgot the words, but I was like, okay, this is interesting. What is going on here? And then you
Yeah.
start hearing all the information coming out that, he went off script. He went into business for himself. There was an issue backstage. I don't know what is happening because I haven't been told if it's a work or if it's a shoot. So I like this. I like to be in the middle of like, oh, maybe it is, maybe it's not. I do have to say, it is very counterintuitive when you call out this mega babyface star in his hometown, home state, right, West Virginia, and you make him look like a fool to a point, right? You call him a coward. You say he's not coming out. Very strange. Very strange. However, a great point in our chat room by Sam3 on YouTube. It's a week later, and everybody is still talking about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We saw this
Mm-hmm.
happen with MJF. We're seeing it happen here. If it is a work, I think they are doing something a little bit different here. That it's breaking that Vince McMahon WWE predictability that we have been conditioned to, where we know when something is a work shoot, or we know when something is legitimate, because we have 40 years of conditioning or 30 years of conditioning to that type of writing or that type of wrestling. This is a whole different ballgame. This is Tony Khan's project. This is Tony Khan's company. He's a very smart guy. He really understands the importance of keeping a captivated audience where you walk that fine line. We saw with MJF now, even though there was truth to it, it's now obviously it's turned into something that's going to play on TV.
Yeah.
I would like to believe that there was an issue. They worked it out, and now they thought of this great idea where, this reality stuff works. The MJF stuff worked. Why not try it with Hangman and do something positive here? Now, I'm not saying that's my opinion. I don't know. I really have no clue. I'm just playing both sides of this to see,
Yep.
what makes sense and what doesn't. The only other thing I did not really like, and this was, this kind of like it was weird when John Moxley came out and that Snow Angel thing, and he was talking over the theme playing for Mox.
Yeah, yeah,
I was like, man, what a dick heel CM Punk is.
yeah. Yeah,
What
agreed.
you know? What a jerk. Like, you don't talk over the guy's theme. You don't do Snow In, but you know what? He's a great heel. He's very easy not to like. And
Because he's supposed to be a heel here, though?
I think CM Punk is forever going to be a heel. I think even when he's a true babyface, there's nothing about him that screams, nice guy, baby. I'm not. Listen, no attack on him. I don't know him personally.
Okay,
but
let's take it back.
Very good to do that. Yeah.
Let's take it back to Double or Nothing.
Yeah.
Right? He wins that match. He comes out the next Wednesday, and it is all about the fans, all about the greatest time of his career as far as enjoyment with wrestling, and the locker room is fantastic and all of those things, right?
Yeah.
He was very well on his way to being a giant babyface. Now, like you said, there's always an edge to him that, I'm sure people can catch on that he's, maybe he's not the happiest go luckiest guy out there, but I think that's also part of his charm. But this is where I was confused, because he got the hero's return the week before, coming out at the end of that show after Moxley beats Jericho. And then, the crowd goes nuts. People loved it. They're expecting, they were expecting to figure out what's going to happen. What's the main event, All Out? And so I think most fans thought, okay, we're going to hear from him. What's the reason? What's the beef? Like, what's going on? What is he going to do? And he comes out immediately in attack mode. So I was kind of put off by that. I'm just wondering, like, what changed from when he left to last week to now, to where he was so aggressive in the story. And I don't know, like, a lot of people, they want, there's a small, I guess I would say it's a small corner of the wrestling universe who want CM Punk to come across as the old CM Punk, and so they can go, see, he isn't changed. He's still the same guy. Like, there's a small part of that wrestling fandom that wants that to happen. And I don't care. Like, we watch this stuff. We don't necessarily root for individual people as wrestle. Like, we root for what's best for business, or what the outcomes are, or what's the best thing for our podcast that we can talk about. And this is absolutely 100% an amazing thing for us to talk about. Like you said, it kept everyone talking. But I guess that's that would be my Garrett. Yeah.
You said something so well, right? Like it was a lot of people, there are people that think, it's the old CM Punk, and, they want him to be this jerk. At the end of the day also, right? We got to look at it this way. He could be as mad as possible at Hangman Page. But are you that mad at Tony Khan that you're going to, if it is 100% a shoot, which a lot of people believe. Again, I don't know. I'm very conflicted on it, because nobody's told me either way.
Mm-hmm.
However, if it is a shoot, it is extremely unprofessional, and it's a huge FU to the company that has given him this opportunity, that didn't take the title off of him. He did a stupid thing and he broke his foot, right? And like, I'm just throwing out all the pieces. And he comes out there the second night he's out there, and he starts burying the top babyface that's homegrown in the company, in a program, in like a thing where he's not coming out, right? You don't even give him the opportunity to. What does that say about your respect for the company more than just Hangman? At the end of the day, it's still a business, and you can be wrestling has seen numerous a-holes in the industry. I mean, it doesn't work for me, brother, right? We've seen that. We've seen that from many, many people. However, do you burn the only bridge that you have left in the business? Because you're not going to WWE. That's by your choice too, but they don't want you and you don't want them. And this is the home.
I kind of feel like Triple H would take CM Punk back.
I never say never, I don't think, right? But it's pro wrestling.
Like you, I don't think CM Punk would necessarily go, unless it was just for like more than Brock Lesnar money. But okay,
give him
so
$20 million, you know.
I mean, they can
But
afford it.
I don't. He's not. CM Punk is not a dumb guy at all. He's very,
No.
very smart, very intelligent guy. Brilliant. People that know him know how smart he is. That I've spoken to. I think he's way smarter than to go out there and to hurt the company.
So there's a reason.
Because I don't know, man. I would prefer to think that there's a reason for everything that we're seeing. I don't want to see something like that happen. I don't like when something like that happens. It's a bad thing for a company that's up and coming, that's had a great 3-year run. Do you want that representing your TV? And do you not punish the person that does that? That's my question. Do you punish him? Because what would happen in WWE if he did that? What would be the outcome?
I don't know. I think that outcome would be much different if Vince was in charge than now Triple H is in charge. Maybe that's different. Okay, so here's my question. Here's my other question about this, which is, do you think it was a leverage play? Because CM Punk, the hero's return the week before, Jon Moxley was not supposed to be the champion, right? This was supposed to be CM Punk's reign. We were supposed to see what happened when Tony got his guy. Remember, CM Punk was the A1 person that Tony
from
Khan
day one
wanted, according to a bunch of different places, Dave Meltzer included. And so we were going to see what Tony had as far as booking was concerned for his guy to be the champion. And then it didn't happen because he got hurt. Moxley comes in. Moxley kind of shows his value overall, right? He's like one of the most valuable guys in wrestling because he immediately slid in and took over and became the top guy again for them that they needed. It could have also been Jericho if they had wanted, but there was no Kenny, there was no MJF, so Moxley was the guy. And so now you have Punk, top guy, Moxley, top guy, MJF, his return is probably the most anticipated thing if you're an AEW fan. How do they do that? So I just wonder if Punk realizes that he's like, oh man, like this is not necessarily only me as the biggest star in this company. There are other people who are very valuable. And now, how do I separate myself from those guys? And I'm not saying that his remark about Paige wasn't like a personal shot. I'm sure it was, but I also think, sort of like what you said, he thought the edge to it, the sort of the reality-based thing. Him and Triple H did this like how many ever years ago, right? Like they were digging for the reality stuff, and I think he thought that this may rankle some feathers, but also at the same time, it's a way for him to go, man, ratings aren't great. I want the ratings to be up when I'm champion so that it shows my value. And this is the way that I think that I can do it.
You know what else is kind of like, again, not just a thought, right? We're having fun here. We're speculating. We're this is the fun conversations to have. This is that conversation you have with your buddy at the bar. You know what this smells like to me? It really smells like Sean and Brett in '97. You cut this promo. You brought up something. How dare you bring up Sunny Days? How dare you bring up Colt Cabana? I go out there. I bury you. I go in the back. I say, I'm never dropping the title to this guy. I'm never losing to this guy. Like CM Punk saw a lot of that, right? He dealt with that struggle of guys not wanting to lose to him, not wanting to put him over. They thought he's not as good. He had enemies. Is he the type to go to AEW and then turn around, win the title, and say, I'm never dropping the belt to you, kid? I have a hard time with that aspect of the story that came out that he said, apparently. If he did say it, man, what a great psych op this is from Tony Khan. What a great, manipulative booking to make people think this is real. If it is true, man, that's really disappointing to hear. I really, at the end of the day, you're in a business. You work for a company. You are there to fill the role and to elevate other people. It's a team. And
yes,
at the end of the day, Do you see him saying that? I'm never going to put him over.
Okay, so obviously, unless was Sean the one that reported that? I'm trying to remember. I want to give the
I can't
right.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was Sean. I want to give the right
Maybe.
acknowledgement. But I thought the other part of the story was that I think he was trying to give Hangman advice, and Hangman was like, "I don't need it," or "I don't want it," or something like that. And then that is what precipitated Punk making that statement. Like there was, I'm as most people who listen to Wrestling Observer Radio know, I'm a big Beverly Hills 90210 fan. This is like right out of Beverly Hills 90210, man. Like I think that's why it's so interesting to me. But like
Tori
like that
Spelling
aspect,
was in the back. You didn't know that?
Yeah, Tori. I mean, the Jungle Boy, his Luke Perry's son, is hanging out right
Joe
there,
Lanza.
watching it go down.
It was Joe.
Okay, that's what it was.
It was Joe
That's
Lanza. Yeah, from Voices of Wrestling.
There. We want to give the proper.
Which, by the way, no knock at Joe. No knock at Joe. I'm giving him the credit on this. I'm not saying that didn't happen, but like it's wrestling at the end of the day, and you second guess everything. Yes. And if it is a story, they could turn this into something really, really interesting. If it's not a story, I'm beyond disappointed. Yeah. Beyond disappointed.
Okay, so what does that lead to for Wednesday? Because they have the pull apart, and then they come back and they're trying to fight again. And then just impromptu, as Excalibur is doing his speed reading on the air, he says that they're going to have a match next week. Like there was no, it's not like Punk accepted a match. It's not like Moxley accepted a match. They're just like, nope, we're putting this match on. They can't wait to get their hands on each other. So where do you think the creative goes from here for tomorrow night's main event of Dynamite?
Man, what a great opportunity to bring in MJF, huh? At this moment, what a mega opportunity. I mean, the report is that he's coming back soon. I had always when things were alluded to me, never said straight out, I always thought he would be here for the pay-per-view. Maybe this is the moment, right? You do something there, or Hangman gets involved and beats the crap out of, interrupts and beats the crap out of Punk, and now it's a 3-way for the title, which you haven't seen them do yet. You could turn this into something. I don't know what, but it really depends on what they do with Hangman here and what they do with MJF. The other thing is, I don't know if you saw, Garrett, they kind of explained why Hangman didn't come to the ring.
Yeah, in the little video.
On BTE, on Being the Elite. They did this thing where, he's motivating the Dark Order for the Trios tournament, and this stagehand comes over and he goes, "Hey, Hangman, the CM Punk," and he's like, "Shut the F up, get out of here, we're talking." Yeah. So that's why. He didn't even know it happened, which, exactly. Great explanation. Great job. Fantastic.
It was cute. Okay, so I like the MJF thing is interesting because, okay, so All Out last year. What happened at All Out last year? Minoru Suzuki comes out. Bryan Danielson comes back. Adam Cole comes out.
I had an out-of-body experience. You were sitting in front of me, and you saw my body leave, and I was floating around the ring. I swear to you, I saw this happen. I saw it happen.
Yes. And so I think there's expectation for this show, right? Who's going to be the giant surprise? And all fingers could point to MJF. I think it's smart. I don't know what's going to happen Wednesday, though, because I've been kind of racking my brain. If Moxley wins, that sets up the rematch for Punk at All Out. So how does Moxley win? Is Eddie Kingston involved? Because Punk took a shot at Eddie Kingston in that. And then Eddie Kingston on Twitter called him a bad word and said, "Of course you're going to say that when I'm not there." Yeah. So there's so many things that can happen. But my worry about Wednesday is that it's not, let's say Moxley wins to set up that match, is there's some sort of screwy thing. And so Mox doesn't get a definitive win to set up that match. But, who knows? I'm sure they got something good that's planned, because if they didn't, I would not have done that match the way that they're doing it, because, there's a possibility that you don't want to hurt what is the main event to All Out. You want to make it even hotter. So whatever they have to do Wednesday is to accentuate what is supposed to happen at All Out. So I hope I'm pretty confident that they have a really good idea. I just hope it works out for them, because that match at All Out should be the one that we're waiting for.
The other thing, Dave actually said, I believe it was Dave. He had reported in the Observer that still it was still that match on that card internally.
Yes.
There was no changes.
I believe so too.
So listen, I mean, they could do something unique. They could maybe just do. Why do it if it's not going to lead to something, right?
Yes.
That's how I see it. Like, it's always you book backwards, right? Like, why would you do it now and not do it at the pay-per-view, unless you're doing something a little different about the pay-per-view, which is fantastic if that's what you're doing.
Yeah. So everyone will see what goes on Wednesday, and hopefully we'll have a very clear picture on what's going to happen for the pay-per-view. Because then, all of next week's shows just got to be overdrive selling that show. Okay, so one more Dynamite thing, and then we'll move on to some WWE. So question from Jeff Lamb, who is a listener to this show. He says he wanted me to make sure that you were here to ask this question. So last week we had Josh Nason, so I held back the question for this week. He says, this is based off of the Moxley and Jericho rating. And he said, so basically the past few months, we've more or less seen the rating that Dynamite produces. It seems that whether they do a really killer show or just an okay show, I feel like they rarely do a bad show. The show gets a 900-ish in viewership with a 0.3 to a 0.4 in the key demo. We've seen the past year that if they do something extra special, they'll blip over 1 million. But even Moxley versus Jericho didn't get over that, and neither did last week's number. More or less, they're stuck in this ballpark. My question is, what do you think will help them get to the next level in terms of viewership? Like a consistent 1.5 million viewership. Is it just a matter of time? Is it signing a big star? Is it something else? Or now this is my editorial. Or do they just never get there?
That's a great question. First of all, a little behind-the-scenes stuff. Whoever did that graphic, fantastic job. Is that you?
I didn't see it because I was reading the question.
I guess not. Maybe you didn't make that graphic with the pencil and the question. Was it John?
No, it had to have been the producer, John. I asked him last week, and he said he would try, but then we didn't do it.
Oh, he did a fantastic job. Great job.
There we go.
Nice job. A little production talk. That's a great question. They're comfortable at that 1 million mark for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's about a big signing, because unless you sign like Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns or John Cena, I don't think it'll make a bigger difference than what we saw with CM Punk and what we saw with Danielson, right? Because those are the big two signings. John Moxley too, right? You got 3 huge names. Maybe a little bit more emphasis on CM Punk than anybody else, because the mystique around him is way more. Listen, you got to make it must-see TV, right? And not just for us, not for me, not for you, not for the audience. You have to do it for the casual fans that tune in and tune out, and maybe will watch and maybe won't watch. How do you get those guys? And that's the biggest question in television. It's not about, like, Game of Thrones came back, right?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen whatever they call it, House of the Dragon. Fantastic show, by the way. Loved it. How do you get someone that's disenfranchised with whatever that first ending was to the original series? How do you get them back? How do you get that casual fan back? The people that have read the books and the people that are on the forums and the people that are on Twitter that are talking about it, they will always watch, like it or even if they don't like it. But it's about developing a new audience. That's the big question. Is it storylines? Do they have to do more captivating storylines? Sure. But what kind of storylines are we going in? A little bit of the difficulty is when we compare big ratings, we always compare it to the era of the big ratings, which was the Attitude Era. Would you say those were great shows to watch?
I'm rewatching 1998 Raw as we are doing this. This whole year I've been following it. A couple things really stand out. Austin is the biggest star ever.
On fire. Yeah.
Undertaker is a step below, but still a giant star. But you have Rock and Triple H kind of bubbling up, and their factions. And so you're intrigued, and and they're creating cliffhanger TV, which is what I don't think either of the current promotions do today. I wish Dynamite had a cliffhanger to Friday so that I
Yeah.
feel like I need to
Yeah.
tune in on Friday, but that never happens. And so sometimes I miss Friday's show. But yeah, it was there like, and the last show that we just reviewed, it's me and John LaRocca do it for our Patreon, the Fight Game Media Patreon. The last show is the go home to SummerSlam 1998. I want to say there was maybe 7 minutes of actual ring time, something very small like that. Everything was storyline, everything was soap opera, everything was Vince and Austin and Undertaker and Kane, who were on the show multiple times. So that style, that blueprint probably doesn't work that well today, because I think wrestling fans today want to watch wrestling matches. But at the same time, if you have characters who are over and who are must see, people will tune in, and there's no Austin right now, obviously. Now,
Yeah.
okay, so circling back to what I was going to say, I don't know if they can get to 1.5 consistently, like Jeff was asking. They've done a good job at doing these secret surprises or these big matches, that are really meaningful. Like the first ever Danielson Omega match that to me felt like, oh my gosh, I have to watch this, and I have to watch it live because I want to watch it with everybody. What does CM Punk as the champion mean? That is unanswered right now. That is what maybe we're going to start seeing. That whatever was going to be the next 3 months after Double or Nothing, we may get now, right?
Yeah.
And also, what does MJF's return mean? If that is the way that they're going, Punk and MJF, and I don't know that to be true. I'm just thinking like, who would be the hottest folks to go? Maybe we'll see that catch on, and that story kind of takes us week to week. But I don't think we're seeing 1.5 consistently anytime soon. Like,
I'd love to ask Dave this question. Somebody told me in WWE that they gauge their mega stars that are needle movers if they could move anywhere from 200 to 300,000 viewers. That's their gauge. Listen, 1.5 million. I don't think there's enough wrestling fans to do 1.5 million. The original estimate for AEW, and I think a lot of people forget this, people from within the TV industry had speculated that there's about 500,000 people that would watch regularly for AEW. Right? That was the initial number. And obviously they blew through that number. It was a misguided assessment of the number. I believe that number too. I think that's a very honest number, that there's 500,000 pro wrestling fans that'll watch regardless every single week. It doesn't matter. I think that number's a little bit higher now. Obviously, we've seen this. AEW's able to do, 1 million. Let's call it 1 million. Getting to 1.5 million with your demo, and then building that demo up to, a 4, 5, or a 5, that gets really difficult. It could also just be a sense of maturity. It's a 3-year-old company. You don't have a large enough footprint of legacy content to kind of garner this larger audience like WWE does. WWE at the end of the day has a 30-year history with the same station at the same time on the same day, and we see that with their key demos, the same people watching. You know what? Maybe that's what they need to do. Maybe they just need to bore the crap out of the audience where they don't tune out, and they just stay the entire show. They piggyback off that whatever what show's on before them.
You're talking about WWE
on TBS? No, TBS. What's the show on before they go on?
Oh, the sitcom?
Whatever it is.
With Kaylee, whatever.
Yeah. So whatever you have on, listen, I don't see them hitting 1.5 million the next year or so, but 1.1, 1.2 on a big thing, that could happen. Big Bang Theory. I cannot believe I forgot the name of that show. My brain just stopped.
Raw was over 2 million again this week, by the way.
Oh, just now it came out. Yeah, they'll do that because they have a built-in audience of 1.5 million regardless. So, you build and you build and you build, and you could get there. I think they're fine right now, but in the fall, they want to be consistently at that 1 million mark. It's not the same TV network. TV's not the same TV as 20 years ago either. We like to compare these numbers, but the viewership does not reflect what their true viewership is. You have to add DVR plus 7, DVR plus 3. What are they doing on streaming services that don't put into Nielsen? These are all things that you got to account for. So maybe they are at that 1.3 mark, in reality.
Okay, so let's move on to talk about WWE. What did you think of this really quick change in management with Jeff Jarrett being gone and the Road Dogg like just coming right in and immediately replacing him? The real Double J. Not only did
The
he
real
was the
Double J.
real singer,
Yeah.
he was the real singer of the song, and now he takes Jeff Jarrett's job here.
Yeah, somebody in the back realized that he's a fraud, and the guy that's been doing all the work is the real Double J, Jesse James. Somebody figured it out. Weird, right? Because actually, Jarrett was doing decent. He was part of live events, right? Wasn't he?
And they were going up.
And they've been going up. Like, if you guys ever want to know what the ticket sales are and how the WrestleTix does this unbelievable job. Yeah. I've spoken to him like 4 times over like DM. I don't get paid, but if you're really interested about this, you should sign up for his Patreon. He does a fantastic job with that stuff. Which I'm part of his Patreon. The numbers are up. They're like 3,000, 4,000, 6,000 on a big show. They're doing some really decent house show numbers in an era where house shows are dead, right? They were lifeless. But he was able to kind of do something. It could also be that, people want to go out, but there was really no struggle on that side. I have no idea what happened here. But are they replacing him with Road Dogg? I don't think he's replacing him in that position, is he?
That's what I thought I heard, was that he was moving right into that position. So here's what's interesting to me. So I remember when the Vince thing happened, I asked Dave on one of the Wrestling Observer radios, I said, who is a Vince guy but is not a Triple H guy? Because I wonder, as far as job security is, how I was just worrying about some people in the company, because, there was this idea that Triple H was going to be the successor, right? And then something happened, the NXT thing happened. He got blamed, which rightfully so. That was his opportunity. And then he had stuff taken away from him. And so then it seemed like there was you could call it the Bruce Pritchard and the Kevin Dunn and that side, where it seemed like they were all of a sudden Vince's chosen ones. And it never really made sense to me, because those guys were not going to be the future of the company. So he really didn't necessarily have a succession plan if Triple H was not involved in big priorities for the company. So then when they put Triple H in this role after Vince had left the company, I immediately went back and went, oh, the people who Vince had sort of pushed ahead of Triple H in this pecking order, I wonder what's going to happen to them. And, Pritchard is still there. Kevin Dunn is still there. Pritchard was even on his podcast saying that he's excited for the future.
Yeah.
But Jeff Jarrett,
say that.
Sure. Jeff Jarrett was probably, I'm assuming, not a Triple H guy, but was a Vince guy. So now the opportunity is to bring in a Triple H guy, and that's the Road Dogg. That's Brian BG James, and he's now in that spot. So I wonder how many other replacements are going to be like this, where it's, nope, that was not my guy or my girl. I'm going to bring in the person who I want to work with. And so I wonder how many more there are with those.
I think there's going to be a ton of those, but you also, you're not going to replace everybody. Obviously, if someone's doing a great job, you want to keep them there. But I expect a lot more of this shakeup to happen. They are in the position of power, something that, a lot of people predicted 20 years ago that this would. I think Brian Alvarez, I have a clip of him predicting this in 2001 or 2000 on his IATA show, and he essentially said that they're going to take over the company and they'll run it, when Vince retires, and that's the outcome that we've seen here. I have that clip somewhere saved, and I'll post it today.
That'd be great.
Yeah, no, I clipped this like years ago, and I called him Brian the Prophet or something like that, and I put it before I was with you guys. I expect more of this for sure. A lot of people, I can tell you, internally within the corporate structure, they are, there is an issue of the old guard and the new guard, where the old guard is losing. You know, they are losing their positioning here of influence, and that's going to play a big part with who goes where.
Yeah, and it's going to be a story to follow for sure. So Raw, you and I have this interesting relationship with Raw in that when it's really bad, we do not look forward to it at all. We kind of watch it in clips. I still watch the Hulu cut. The last time we recorded, you said you actually watched all 3 hours of Raw live. Now, I was wondering if you still did that for last night's show.
Last night, 100%. Yeah, I watched all 3 hours live last night.
That is amazing to me.
Me too.
Simply
I'm amazed by
amazing.
myself. I'm amazed by myself that I had that stamina at that hour.
Okay, so that means that you are more interested in what they're doing, or you're happier with what the show has become. So I wanted to ask you, like, what are the 1 or 2 things, or maybe there's more than 1 or 2 things that you enjoy that has sort of flipped your viewing habits on its head?
I think it's less like the things that they're doing. I mean, obviously they did so much yesterday, but it's less that, but it's more the intrigue of what are they going to do next, which at the end of the day, that's what makes TV viewership, right? It's not the actual thing the event that happens. It's the what's going to happen next that drives that interest. I'm very interested to see the changes that come. I mean, obviously Johnny Gargano comes out, which we'll talk about. He says wrestling like 3 times. There's wrestling all over a wrestling show. Who would have imagined? But I am interested. You know, another great example, that chaotic opening to Raw, right? They opened the show. It was this chaotic brawl, and then they like hit the fireworks like 3 minutes later and like restarted everything, which you'd never see that on that TV show. That TV show is very consistent on how it's produced. You're starting to see these little changes, which I appreciate. I like. You know, it's still a long show.
Yeah.
It's still very, you know, at times it gets exhausting, but when you have things like Johnny Gargano coming out and you have Edge in the main event and you have the intrigue of that tag tournament for the women's tag title, you know, it's enough to say, you know, Trish Stratus on the show, which was great to see. It's enough to say, like, for myself internally, I'm like, you know what? Do I want to watch this? Am I going to invest 3 hours in this? Or do I want to go on TikTok or go on YouTube and watch some ridiculous video? For me, it was enough. You know, that card was enough, knowing in Toronto to watch. I don't know if I'll be able to keep it up every week, but so far they've done a decent job at keeping my interest levels high.
Did you just say Raw is better than TikTok?
You know, that's like my thing, right? My wife and I have TikTok on the TV. And then like at night, we just have a glass of wine or a bottle of wine between the two of us. And we'll sit there and we just go on TikTok and we'll watch TikTok videos. I'm a 17-year-old on the inside, Garrett. Don't be fooled by this old man's aesthetic.
Okay, so let's kind of circle through some of the things that happened on Raw. You mentioned the Gargano thing, and I think there was some idea that he was going to come in, because if you sort of follow who has come back so far, they have been like favorites of Triple H, right? From when he was on NXT. And Gargano played the waiting game. You know, he's been gone, like he said. He and his wife, they had their child, and he played the waiting game. He did not go to AEW like a lot of people anticipated, for whatever reason. And by playing the waiting game, by being patient, he was sort of rewarded by what looks to be a pretty sweet spot on the main roster, working, at least for now, with Austin Theory, who we know that they have pretty high hopes for. At least we think that they still do. And I don't know, like the pretty smart thing, I think, for Gargano to be as patient as he was and not just sort of take whatever was out there, because when Triple H takes over, then Gargano's sitting there waiting, and Triple H is really enjoying bringing these people back. So I thought that was really cool. He looked like he was so happy to be there. He looked like he was just like, man, so happy to be back. Theory's in some instances I like his promos, and in some instances I don't. But they have a natural connection because of the NXT stuff. So I think that'll be fun, and we'll get to see Johnny, Johnny wrestling, do some wrestling matches. So that was really cool. But I guess my question for you is, how many other cards can Triple H play here with that roster to bring back the surprises? Because, you can only do this so much before it just stops being meaningful, right? You can only go to the well
Well, you're
one
also
too
going to
many
run out.
times. Yeah.
You're going to run out of people. Kevin Nash, you could bring him back. I'm joking. I'm
Why?
joking. Somebody send in the
Wait,
chat room.
wait. Okay.
Someone send in the chat room. Yeah.
Okay, you said that, and the person is joking in the chat room, but
Yeah.
Triple H did just hire his good buddy, the Road Dogg.
Yeah, maybe.
Triple H, might bring the band back together. He might be interested in that. And Kevin Nash has not been involved with that stuff.
I'll tell you one name that I've heard. I've heard one name over the last 2 weeks, and that's Jonah. Actually, chat room saying it right now, too. Look at that. Everybody's on the same page here.
Great G1.
Talking casually to a friend over there. Great G1, talking to a friend casually at in Connecticut. He's a name. Joe, and I got to tell you, Bronson Reed got the shit end of the stick.
Yeah.
With his positioning. He's very good. He has the size. He had this awesome entrance, right? With the background, with the city in the back. Awesome entrance, great package. I don't know him at all, like personally at all. I don't know if there was anything behind the scenes that happened, anything beyond that, but I could tell you that there are a lot of people that are very interested in him because of his talent, his performance in the G1. He's a name that people are very much interested. I don't know what his deal is, but he has come up as a name that I've heard.
That would be a great name. It looks like he had a blast in New Japan, but I could see him, feeling a little bit protected with Triple H being in charge and coming back to WWE. That would be interesting. But I would also think maybe New Japan, because he's supposed to face Okada on the upcoming big show. And so I really wonder what kind of deal he has over there. Maybe he doesn't have a deal, and it's just per show or something.
Speculative question for you. I have a question for you. Okay, out of not my opinion. I don't. I'm just throwing it out there. Right. This is a whole different company. If you had told me 6 months ago, can Okada ever be in WWE? Will Okada ever be in WWE? I would have said, are you nuts? Right? Impossible. Tanahashi ever coming in WWE doing something? Are you nuts? I know those guys are lifers, right? Lifelong, they're there. But is the opportunity to get an offer, a substantial offer, more now than it ever was for a guy like, Okada and a guy like I'm not saying them specific, but or maybe specifically Okada, Tanahashi, those guys, Sonata. Is there an opportunity now?
Sure. There's a much. It's probably still a small chance, but I think they would definitely sniff around to see. They don't have the best reputation, let's say, for male.
Doing right, yeah.
Male Asian wrestlers, right? Kushida, they had Kushida.
Terrible.
And Kushida was a nothing for the most part. They do much better with the female Asian talent, like we see Io Shirai, but she was also frustrated because she felt that she wasn't on the main roster, and she should have been. And she should have been. Kairi Sane seemed to be unhappy. Asuka is the mainstay. She's the one that seems to have figured it all out. But yeah,
Nakamura is, he's happy there. However, if Hunter was in charge, I guarantee he would have been world champion. He would have beat Styles at that Mania. No question about it.
You know what? This isn't the same Nakamura, though, right? Like, this is a very sort of okay version of Nakamura where he doesn't seem like I'm sure he cares, but he doesn't seem to need to be a top guy. Like, he enjoys surfing and he enjoys being in the United States. Because who doesn't like Nakamura? But that's not the same guy that we saw. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I'm sure the opportunities will be there a little bit more than they were, but I don't know. I think Triple H, that would be a big play for him, and I just don't see the WWE being able to utilize somebody like that in the way that maybe even AEW could probably do a better job, because their fan base is a little bit closer to a New Japan fan base than WWE's is.
And let me put this out there. I don't want Okada in WWE. I like him exactly where he is in New Japan. I will never get to see those level matches that we see in New Japan that we do in WWE. But I'm just throwing it out there because it's a very different thoughtful. The philosophy is changing in that company.
Yeah, one of my goals is to whenever Okada comes to California, take him to a Giants game. Because
Oh man, can you imagine?
whenever he
The
goes
Tokyo
to the
Giants.
ballparks, well, because he's a baseball fan. Like Dave and I interviewed him for Wrestling Observer Radio. Gosh, it's probably been a year now, but this was one of the rare video interviews that we've done. And the reason we did the video is because it was easier than trying to patch everyone through in Skype and such. And so Chris Charlton was there, and so I asked him some baseball questions because he's a baseball fan, and supposedly Naito's an even bigger baseball fan. But Shohei Ohtani's a giant crossover star, and
Big time.
there was another player who the Cubs signed, Seiya Suzuki, and so I know he's a big fan, so I asked him those questions. But every time you see him at a ballpark in the U.S., he's always wearing the team hat and the team jersey. So I want to bring him out. He's been to Giants game before, but I kind of want to hang out with Okada at a Giants game. That's one of my goals.
Garrett, I asked Lance if he's on after us today because you and I have not spoken in 2 weeks, and we just blew through the show on nonsense. So I said, "Hey, are you on after us? So like at least maybe we have like an extra 10 minutes if we need it."
Oh, so he's not on.
No, he hasn't responded yet.
Oh no,
I'm pretty. I just messaged him.
I'm pretty sure he's on, and he's gonna yell at us. When it's like 2 minutes left, he's gonna send us a note saying that the main event is coming on. We need to get these these prelim matches.
Crap!
There we
Prelims
go.
are over. Take it home, kid. Oh crap! It's happening already.
There we go. Lance is great. Yeah, so let's wrap it up. We only got a few more minutes here, and we don't want Lance to feel like we're infringing on his time.
Did you want to go into the draft really quick? Because I got some info on that.
Go for it.
Yeah. So Sean from Fightful put out, and he's been on top of the draft a little bit more than I have. I kind of this summer I kind of sat back and recovered from this hip injury, so I haven't reached out to anybody. But I was. He put it out about the draft and some people, possible dates, and a lot of people started reporting the dates. I could tell you, USA. Oh, by the way, also USA Network had no idea about Gargano, nor did Fox. Nobody knew.
Oh,
the networks had no clue. The only thing that told me that something might happen is that they were going limited commercials for the final hour. So in my mind, I was like, okay, something will happen in this hour that they need to do this. So. They even announced it. I think they said that they were going limited for the match. Sean and a couple other people. There was conversations happening that they would do the draft on the 9th and the 12th of September. There was talent that was from Raw that was gonna go to SmackDown for that 9th show, and a lot of people started speculating that may be the day. It's very possible that was the original date that WWE had. I could tell you that neither network had any date set on their internally. Fox, when I confirmed with someone at Fox, they said they don't have a day. Confirmed with someone at USA, they told me they don't have a day. So unless they're really good at working everybody and not letting their network partners know when they have a mega show in about 3 weeks, I don't think the draft is happening now. However, it's alluded, and I think Sean also had the same report because I messaged him right before it went on and to confirm, like, did you hear this? It's being alluded that it's not happening now; it's happening further down the line.
Sure.
And I'm not reporting this because I don't have another source, but I will say that the time frame that was given to me is after football's over. So possibly after Mania.
Interesting.
That's how it was said to me 2 weeks ago. Again,
I would do
things change. I don't know.
I would do it the Raw after the day one pay-per-view. That's when I would do it.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one to do it. That's your fine. Yeah, that of course. That's your. That's you get your final matches, and then the next day, boom, draft time.
Yeah, kickoff to the draft. That's when I think they should do it. But I also get that. They have to think of competition. I can't imagine it's canceled just because it's such a heavy viewership show for them. They do get a lot of viewers for that show generally. So, Yeah, no, that was a good tidbit to go out of the show on. Nice job there.
Little tidbit. But listen,
All right, what's
I'm giving the credit to Sean, too, because he publicized this. I shut my mouth because I couldn't confirm it with another source. So I
okay?
don't, it's not a
Yeah,
TV
credit.
14 situation here, boys and girls.
Yeah. Credit. We're giving out our credits on this show.
By the way,
Because
I may have some information next
Okay.
week on the show for TV 14. I'm
Okay, good.
very close to putting together this whole debacle. It's
All
eating
right.
at me, Garrett.
I know it's been like it's been an opponent of yours. You're just like it's
I have no
just
idea.
been frustrating for you. All right, let's get out of here. Well, I just want to make sure we have enough time. What's coming up with Mattman and Wrestling Observer Live?
Next week, can I announce my guest? I cannot announce my guest for next week yet, but I have a guest that I'm working on. A pretty big. We had we've had some pretty big guests the last couple of weeks. The show's been doing great on Observer Live. RJ City was on with us 2 weeks ago, which I had a blast. He's fantastically hysterical. Love that guy. Mattman, me and Rich, just gonna do inappropriate jokes for about 90 minutes and call it a wrestling podcast. And then with you, this is we talk about wrestling here.
Yeah. You get enough wrestling with this one. So for me, so tomorrow after Dynamite, John and I record the Fight Game podcast. But I also am going to have a segment scheduled with Brandon Thurston to talk a little business and ratings.
Love it.
And so we'll record that for video. I'm trying to get F4W's own Paul Fontaine on there as well. And so we'll just talk business for 20 to 30 minutes. And then I'm going to attach it on the end of my show with John. So the audio Fight Game podcast will be John and I doing our Dynamite review and then this interview with Brandon. And then
he's great too. Brandon's fantastic at what he does.
At the same time that goes up, I will also put the video of the interview that I do with Brandon on the F4W YouTube channel. So there will be multiple places to hear and see me talk to Brandon. I like that guy. Dave and I have interviewed him before. He's really, really smart guy. So,
all right, how I'm gonna listen to that show. We got a minute. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna put on my robe. I'm gonna dim the lights. I'm gonna get myself a nice glass of red wine, and I'm gonna sit there and listen to you guys talk about numbers.
Yeah.
That's all I want to hear is just demos and numbers and gates. That's what does it for me for pro wrestling.
Yeah, maybe that's how we should brand it. Sexy numbers with Brandon Thurston.
Sexy numbers with Brandon.
Love it. All right. Let's get out of here before Lance gets mad at us. So for Andrew, I'm Double G. See when we see you. Peace out.